Hello, in this video we're going to be building this movie page using only HTML, CSS and JavaScript. It's actually a very simple and straightforward one. So when we finish building it, we'll be able to scroll through movies, and whenever we click a movie, it's going to show the same movie in the background, or any image that we add to show will show in the background. Like this particular movie shows this image in the background, and this altered perception movie shows that image in background. It also changes the title of the movie and a description that I generated using ChatGPT. Let's go straight into it. So whenever I want to start a new project, I like creating a folder first, then opening up that folder as a project in my VS Code. So this is what I'm going to be doing. First of all, I'm going to open my file explorer, and I'll go over to the location where I want to open it. Then I'll create a new folder. I'll just name it movie DB. So when I've created a folder, I'll go back to my VS Code, then open that folder. I can click on this here, or I just go straight to File and Open Folder. Then I find the folder where I created it, and this is mine right here. Then I click on Select Folder. So you can just click on Yes. Alright, so now we have our folder opened up, and I'll just close this and this. So first thing we're going to do is to create our files and folders. So I'll create index.html file first. Then I'll create a folder, because we're going to have our CSS folder. We also have our JavaScript folder. I like doing these things just for organization's sake. Let everything be arranged and all that. So I'll create a folder. I'll name it Assets. In the Assets folder, I'm going to add another folder and name it CSS. Then I'll make sure I select Assets and create another folder. I'll name it JS. That's for JavaScript. Then back on Assets folder, I'll create another one and name it Images. This is where I'll keep all the images. So now, back in our index.html, if I load up the page, so we have a blank page here, and now when we start building, everything starts showing up here. Alright, so back to our index.html file. I'm going to start by creating a boiler template. So you can just use the shortcuts, type an exclamation mark, and the first option you see there, you can just select it and it gives you this. Alright, so I'll give it a title. Let me just call it movie DB. Then I'll also add my fonts. I like to add fonts and everything before I start working on any website project. So let me just close this a little. So I'll add this font I got from fonts.google.com. You can get yours from there. If you go to fonts.google.com, you can search for the name of the font. For example, I already have mine. I already selected mine here. So if you search for the font, you can just click on the font when it shows you here. You click on Get Font. It automatically adds it to the cart. Then when you click on the cart, you can click on Get Embed Code. Then you copy the code from here. So that's the code I copied already. That's the code I copied and pasted here. So I'm just going to add a comment before it. Font. Alright, so we also get the font family name here, but we're going to come back to this. So So I'm using two fonts, and that's why you can see this font. This is one font that I got this from fonts.cdnfonts.com, and the name of the font is Evil Empire, and that's what we're going to be using on the title side here. That's what we're going to be using. Then the regular font, which is Poppins, we're going to be using it on the other part of the body. So I'll add the link to the font in the description, so you can always get it as whenever you want. But for the Poppins font, you can get it from fonts.google.com here. Alright, so moving on, we're going to create our style.css file, and we're going to put that in our CSS folder. So I'll click on CSS and now type styles.css, hit enter. So to make sure everything is working correctly, I have to also link this CSS file in my HTML. So what I'll do is to come to a new line and type link. Then I'll make sure the path to the CSS file is actually correct. So you can see I'm going into assets folder, which is this. Then from assets folder I enter into the CSS folder, which is this. Then styles.css. So you have to be sure of the spelling. You have to be careful because it takes note of the spelling. If I type style.css, I won't be able to get the file I need because the name of the file is actually styles.css, style with an s.css. So I have to make sure it's correct. If not, I will run into issues. So the next thing I want to do is to import my font for the title font, so import it into the CSS, and I already have the import link. I'm just going to paste it here, so we'll be able to access the font and use it in our code. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is to do a kind of reset on the whole page. So usually, if for example, let's say I put an h1 tag here and type hello world and save, refresh it here, I'm going to see hello world, yes, but you can see it already has a padding or margin in the page, which is something I don't want to have because it's going to affect everything. You know, some tags usually come with their default padding or margin, and it can affect the way our work goes later on. So I like resetting everything, and how I do that is by going to the CSS file. We'll go to a new line, then I'll use the asterisk and call box sizing, and I'll set it to border box. Then margin, set it to 0, padding, set it to 0, and save. So if I go back, I'm going to see that the whole margin and padding has gone, and now we can start working on our page. Alright, so now back in our HTML, I'm going to delete this. So before I start working, if I already have a design in my mind, I like planning it out, so I'll just visualize everything I want to work on, so I won't have to start thinking too much while working. So for example, since we are building a page like this is what we're building, I like to create everything in sections. For example, I know this movie logo, the logo of the page is going to be on a line on its own. Then I'm going to separate this into one section. That's everything you can see on this part. I'm going to separate it into one section and put this in another section, so it can be easy for me to visualize. I can use it to visualize what I'm building. So what we're going to create now is a wrapper, because I want to put the background into the whole thing. Like everything is going to hold this, so the background will come behind all. So I'm going to create a wrapper tag. So we'll create a wrapper tag which is going to wrap everything together. Then I'll create this logo section. So I'll call that I'll create a div with a class of logo, and in it I'm going to create my image tag. So now we have to add the logo, and we've not done that already. I will also leave a link to the logo files, to the logo, the images and everything you need, so you can not just download them and use for your own project as you practice. So let's get the logo and everything ready. So as you can see, this is my image folder, and when I open it, you see all my images are there now. So you can just copy and paste yours too. Get the images from the link in the description, and you can put them in your project too. So now we're going to link the logo, and I'm going to link it here. So I'll go to my assets folder and then images and logo. This is the logo here. So if I save that and open the page, we're going to see the logo. So the logo is white and red logo. That's why you can't see the white part here. So this is the logo. So we're going to style everything more. First of all, I would like to start with the wrapper. But before I get into the wrapper, I also want to style the general stylings, that's the body and all that, and give it the font name. So I'll come to a new line, and on the body I'm going to give it font family and call that Poppins sans serif. Right, then I'll give it a color white, that's FFF. So I'm giving you white, even though it's not going to show here. I'm going to give you white because we're going to be using a background which will allow us to use the white on it. Alright, so back to our code. Now we can move on to the wrapper. We're going to style this wrapper, the wrapper class. So I'll call the wrapper class here. Then I'll give it a width of 100%. Give it a height of 100 VH, that's 100 viewport height, because 100 VH just specifies that from the top of the page to the end, that the height of this part from the top of the page to the end of the screen is going to take all that, it's going to take everything. Right, so after that we're going to give it a background. So I'll say URL, then I'll find the path to the image. First put quotation marks, single quotes, then I have to come out. I'm currently inside the CSS folder, and I have to get into the images folder, which means I have to come out of this folder first in the path. So I have to come out of the folder first before I get into images folder. So what I have to do is to use dot and slash, forward slash, then it brings me out. Because if I just type dot and forward slash, it doesn't bring me out. It only checks inside the folder where I currently am. So I'll use dot and forward slash. So it comes out to find folders in the assets folder now. Then I go into images, and I'll just add a single let's say I'll just add a single background here for now. Then I'll give it, just right after the closing brackets, I'm going to add some settings like no repeats. That's for it to not repeat. Let me undo this first so that you can see what it looks like. So you can see, as you can see, it ends here and it starts all over again. You can see it repeats, it keeps repeating. So I'll add no repeats, and if I save that and go back fresh, you can see it ends here because I already said it shouldn't repeat. Alright, so I'll add another one, center, so that it stay in the center. Then when I refresh, you can see it's in the center now. Alright, so the next one I'll add will be center cover, and this makes it take the whole space. You can see it covers no matter what. Even if I zoom out or zoom in, it takes the whole, it fits the whole page or the section where you want it to fit. Okay, now Next thing we're going to do is to add the padding. So we're adding padding or top. We're adding padding to the top. Let's say 40 pixels. And the reason why we're adding the padding is because there will be space here. I don't want it to, just hug this line. I don't want it to hug the top of the page. So I want to give it a space. So that's why I'm adding padding. So padding, and that's it. So let me refresh. You can see now. Alright, so we're already a step forward, and what we want to do now is to style the logo and make it smaller, look better. So we already have the logo class here. So what we're going to do is call the class of the logo and say width. Let's give it a width of 100 pixels. Margin, left margin, let's give it margin of 100 pixels as well. So if we refresh that, you can see it takes, right now it's not going to show, it's not going to adjust the size because this is an image. We only gave 100 pixel width to the class, to the logo class, which is what wraps the image. You can see the image is inside and the logo is outside. So we're only giving this logo class a width of 100 pixels. So now we want the image to fit into the 100 pixels width because this is larger than 100 pixels, and we want the logo to become smaller to fit into that width. So what we're just going to do is to call the image class, the image inside this logo class. That's what we're going to call. So on a new line, I'll just say logo and image. So I'm doing this because I'm calling the logo class first because the image is inside it. We'll have a lot of other images, so we have to specify which image we are talking about. So logo and image, you can see. So now all we have to do is give it a width of 100%, which means it takes 100% of its container. So width of 100 pixel, 100% tells it, instructs it to take the 100% width of its outside container. So if you refresh this now, you can see it's now smaller. If I reduce this to 90, let's say 70%, it becomes 70% of its container. So you can see it's now smaller. Alright, so we're going to return that to 100 because we just want it to be 100%. Alright, so what we're going to do next is to create this section, this particular section that will contain the title, the description of the movie, and every other thing, including these images, these cards. Alright, so what we're going to do is to create another class here. Outside, that's still inside this wrapper, we're creating another class inside it. So we're going to come to a new line after the logo class and call it, let's say inner wrapper. Of course, you can name it whatever you want, but this is just the name I'm picking. So we'll call it inner wrapper, and in the inner wrapper is wrapping everything here. So I want to separate this side, that's the left part. I want to separate it from the right part. So let me just create a comment because I like using comments. It makes me understand my work, and it's also professional for you to use comments. So on a new line, I'll create another section and call it, let's say, movie info. Then in movie info, I'm going to add the movie title. So let me just create another one, movie title. Sorry, there's a mistake here. Okay, movie title. Alright, so I'm going to put the movie title. Let's just add a random movie, Sinners. So everything is going to be dynamic later on. Then I'll go to a new line and create description, movie description. Just give it movie description. So for now, I'm going to use lorem sum. Just use this. Alright, so if you refresh, you can see our work is coming up. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is to add these buttons. So on a new line, I'm going to add a new div tag, and I'll name them movie buttons. So this is just for these two buttons, that buy movie button and more info button. So I'll add the button. So that's two buttons. Button, and let me give it a class of maybe btn by, I'll name it buy movie, sorry, buy movie. Then on a new line, create another button, give it a class of btn more, then name it more info. Alright, then finally what I want to do is to add these apps like just Netflix, Peacock, Hulu and Prime Video. Okay, so I'll create a div tag again and create a class of movie apps. So I'm adding how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there are 4. So I'm going to add 4 div tags. Alright, so I used a shortcut, and to do that, if I want to create 4 div tags, so all I just have to do is type div star the number of times I want it to come. So I want it to be 4, so I'll just type 4 and hit enter, and it gives me 4 div tags. Alright, so what I just want to do now is to add image tags in them, and this. So the first one is Netflix. So Netflix, Peacock, Hulu and Prime. So I'll just find the path to the image folder, and this is it. So I'm currently in the index.html, so all I have to do is just to use // and it takes me there. So Netflix, yeah. Then the next one is Peacock. So I'll add another image class. So Peacock. Alright, then the third one is Hulu. So another image class. Alright, then the last one is Prime Video. So okay, so Prime. Alright, so let's refresh the page and see what it looks like. So you can see it's all big, and that's because we still need to start the page. Okay, so now we're going to start the page. Before we start it, let's add this other section, but we're not going to add a lot. We'll just add the class. So let's call it. So we're going to come out of the left part, because we're currently in the left side of the screen. So we're going to come out of it, which ends here. Then I'll come to a new line. I'll put another comment here so that I'm going to be able to remember. You can see when it gets long, it gets confusing. Okay, so I'll name this one movie view. That's because you can view, it allows us to view all the movies here. So name it movie view, and I'll just leave it for now. Okay, so we're going to start styling the left part of it. But first of all, we need to give it an arrangement. We need to call the inner wrapper and tell it how to arrange everything. Okay, so before we go on, let me just add a class, an h1 here. Let's say hello world, so we can be able to visualize what we're doing. Okay, so we probably can't see it here because of, okay, you can see it here. This is it down here. So let's start styling. So first of all, I'll style the inner wrapper. I'll come to a new line. So I'll say margin. Let me first give it a width. Oh, okay, I'll give it a margin because I want to make sure it has this margin here. So let's say margin left 100 pixels. So if you look at that, you can see it already has the left margin. So from here downwards, Okay, so now we're given the margin left, and I want it to take the width. I want it to take the whole width from here to the end. So I'm going to give it a width of 100%, which means it's taking 100% of the width of its parent container, which is the container that wraps it. For in our case, we want to give this a width of 100% so that it will take 100% of the container that is wrapping it, which is wrapper container. Wrapper container is what is wrapping inner wrapper container. So we're going to say width 100%. So now the thing is, when we set width of 100%, we probably can't see anything yet. We won't understand right now, but there's something we're going to notice very soon, and we'll notice that only when we reduce the logo options. So let's do something. Let's comment this out, the apps, this part. Let's create a comment. Select all and hit Control and /, and everything becomes a comment. Save and refresh. Alright, so now you can see that it's supposed to take 100% of the width. That's supposed to just take everything, but you can see it's going out of its container here. You can see it here. So why is that happening? That's because we already added a margin on the left side. So it pushes it out because we said 100%. So it calculates 100% of the width and assigns it to that particular class. So let's do something. Let's remove the margin, for example. So let's just comment this out and save it. When I refresh, you can see it now takes up the whole space again and it doesn't overflow. So we'll bring this back, but now we're going to change the width. We won't use 100% anymore. What we want to do is to add a calculation. How calculations work: we can calculate 100% and subtract the margin that we added. That's, we're going to subtract this margin, this left margin we added. So what we're going to do is type calc, then 100%. That's 100% of the original width, then minus the margin, or minus whatever size we want to minus from it. So I'll say 100 pixels. So what we're trying to do is we're returning the margin here, but instead of allowing it to overflow to the right, we're going to subtract this same margin, this 100% that it adds at the end. We're subtracting it. So when we refresh, you can see it doesn't overflow anymore. But if we return this to 100% and refresh, you can see it starts going out again. Alright, so the calculation method is the best method in this case. And refresh and it's back. Okay, so now what I want to do again is I want to separate this part. I want to separate the title of the movie, the description, the buttons. I want to separate them, put them on one side, that's only from here, and we want the right side, which carries this hello world, we want it to be on the right. Understand? So basically what I'm saying is we want this to be on the left and this to be on the right. So what we're just going to do is to use flexbox. So now we're going to call still inside our inner wrapper, we're going to call display and give it flex. So first of all, you're going to notice something. We save and refresh, you notice that everything is on a line. So flexbox is a particular method in CSS that is used to arrange, give layouts for creating layouts in CSS. It's a very useful tool. It's not complicated. It's very useful. It's something you can use at any time, and it gives you very dynamic lots of methods to use to arrange your containers or boxes. Okay, so we're going to add padding to the right. So we don't want it to hug the end. We just want it to give it a little space here. So we're going to add padding to the right, and let's say 20 pixels. Alright, so okay. So next thing we want to do now is to work on the movie info. That's this particular section that carries the title, the description, carries the buttons and the images. Okay, so what we're trying to do here is to give it a specific size. So we're going to give it a size, a width here, so it doesn't expand past that. We're going to give it a width, and we're also going to give it some a margin to keep it away from this, so it doesn't hug the logo the way it's hugging it here. Okay, we're also going to give it, some more styling. So let's get into it. All right. So I'm taking movie info, and let's give it a width of 500 pixels. So if I refresh, you can see. Okay, so width of 500 pixels, then I'll give it a margin top 100 pixels, and when we refresh, you can see it's taking more space. Okay, then margin right, outside margin right, I'll give it margin right of 100 pixels. So it's going to give it more space between the left side and the right side. So if I refresh, you can see it has given more space. Okay, so that's all for that one. So we're going to work on the title now. We're going to work on this title. So movie title is what we're working on now. So I'm going to call movie title, and I'll give it a font family of the font I said I was going to use for a title. That's this particular font. That's what we are using. So I'm going to give it a font family of Evil Empire. That's the name of the font. So sans serif. So if I refresh it, you can see it's already changed, but we're going to need to make it bigger. So let's give it a font size of 3 em. So refresh, you see it's now bigger. Okay, so we're going to give it a margin, so it gives space here. We're going to give it a margin at the bottom of this title, so this one can move down a little more. So margin bottom, and let's say 40 pixels. Alright, so that's all for that part. So now we're moving on to the description. So description, movie description. Okay, let me just copy it to make it faster. So on the new line, movie description, and let's say I'll give it a line height. I'm giving it line height because I want to add some more line space. I want to add space in between each line because it's too packed. So I'll give it a line height of 1.8. Also give it a margin at the bottom. Let's say 60 pixels. And I would like to add text shadow. So let's say text shadow. I'm adding text shadow so that it can, because some background can be so bright and we need to bring this out. It's white we're using here, so we need to bring it out. So I'm going to add text shadow to it. I already made the text shadow before, so I'm going to just make it easier and paste that here. You can use a different one if you want to make yours different. Right, so let's refresh, and you see it looks better now. Okay, so we're going to work on the buttons now. What we're trying to do is to make the button, one button red with a red background and the other just white and a white line under it. Okay, so what we're going to do is to take the movie button class, and we're going to call the class here. Then we're going to give it a width of 100%. We're giving it a width of 100% so that it can take this whole space. That's the whole 500 pixels. Remember, we set 500 pixels width for the outside container, which is movie info. You can see movie info, and movie info covers everything inside it. So we want the movie buttons to take the width here, we want it to take the whole 500 pixels width together. Alright, so we're giving it a class of, we're giving it a width of 100%. Then we're going to use flexbox as well. So we were saying display flex, and when we do that, it doesn't really show a difference because it's already on a line. But you'll see, if when we refresh it, you'll notice that it comes together. So you can see it comes together now. That's to show that flexbox is now active on it. Okay, so we're going to give it a gap of 20 pixels. Save. So you can see it now has a little gap of 20 pixels. Alright, next thing we're going to do now is to style each of the buttons. Okay, so first of all, I want to give the general styling. That's a styling that is going to work for this and for this. Because if you look at this, they both have the same width. They also have the same heights and all that, the same font. The only thing they have that is different is the background. Okay, so now let's go back to our code. And we're going to specify the button class, the button element here, the button tag. So we'll first call the movie buttons class, because we have the button inside the movie buttons class. Then we'll call button. Alright, so we're going to give it a flex 1. The reason why we're giving it flex 1 is so it can take the whole width. So since if it's only one we have, if it's only one button we have, that one button is going to take the whole width. But since it's two, they are both going to share the width they have. So flex 1, let's refresh. You see it now takes the whole width. Alright, so we're going to give the buttons padding 15 pixels for the top and bottom, then 0 pixels. We're not adding px here because it's 0. So 0 for left and right. So first one shows 15 pixels for top and bottom. Second one is for left and right. Okay, so let me refresh this and you can see. Alright, so I want to remove the background. I want to move the white background and also the border. So I'm going to say background none. And if you refresh that, you can see the background is gone, but this border is still there. Then the font is black. I want to change that. So border, or say none. Then color, I'm going to give it white. Okay, so I want to make sure the text is in capital letters, just in case if you type in small letters, you just have to make sure it's in capital letter. So I'll say text transform and say uppercase. We're not going to notice anything here just because it's already in uppercase. So I'll say cursor pointer. The reason why I'm doing this is because it's a button and I want to be sure that I'm hovering a button. So I want it to show that hand cursor. So if I refresh it, it's going to show the hand cursor whenever I hover it. You can see it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to pick each button to give them further styling. So you can see this one has a red background while this one doesn't. So what we're going to do now is to pick this particular one. So we already gave it a class of btn by. What we're going to do is to pick this particular class because it specifically talks about this by movie button. So here I'm going to a new line. Let's call the movie buttons, then button dot by btn by. So it specifically says that the button, but the one that is for the btn by. That's why I added it together. You see, I didn't leave any space. I made it stay together because they are both together. You can see button and this. Okay, so I'm going to give it a background, say red. I want to give it a red background. So okay, so that's the hex color code for red. And if I go back and refresh, you can see it now has red. Okay, so I want to make it curved. I want to give it a border radius, so I want it to be curved like this. So I'm going to say border radius. I'll give it border radius of just 10 pixels, shouldn't be too much. So when I refresh it, you can see. Alright, so as you can see, it's not, if I hover it, you won't even notice. So I want it to have a little fading, like it becomes a bit brighter when hovered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this because I'm still styling this, but I can't do that styling here. I want to specify the styling for when it is hovered. So on a new line, I'll just paste this over, then I'll put a colon, then hover. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to add border, sorry, I mean a background, yeah, background. Then I'll add the red, it's still red, but what I want to do now is to give it a kind of brightness, or let me say make it brighter when it is hovered. So I'm just going to click on this and drag this down. I'm kind of making it transparent a bit. Then I'll save. When I refresh, if I hover it, it actually becomes darker. So I can decide to do it this way, or I can make it brighter. So let me just click on that again. I'll increase this again, but this time around I'm going to drag this to the left because it becomes lighter here. So I'll save and refresh so you can see it. But there's something I like to add. When you hover this, it automatically just jumps into the next color. That's the color I specified for hover. It automatically jumps in, doesn't give a nice transition. So I want it to have a transition, and what I'm going to do is I'll add a transition. Property. So let's say transition to the background, and I'll add time 0.3 seconds. So when I refresh that, you can see it now comes in smoothly, but when I remove it, it jumps back to the original color, which means I'm also going to add a transition. So let me just copy this and paste it to the original btn by styling, so that whenever we hover, it takes us smoothly to the new color. Then when we unhover, like when we remove the cursor, it fades back into the original state, so it doesn't just jump in and jump out. So let's refresh. You can see, so that's all for that one. So what I want to do now is to style this. Okay, so now by taking btn more, because we want to style the more info. So what we're going to do is on the new line, we're calling the movie buttons class again, calling button, then this time around btn more. So all we have to do is just add a border at the bottom, because we don't need a background here. All we just want to do is add a white line under it. Okay, so what we're going to do is say 1 pixel solid. That's 1 pixel here. I want it to be solid, because we can do dash, we can make it dashed, we can make it dotted and all that. So we're saying 1 pixel solid, and we'll add the color white. Okay, so when we refresh, see what we have. So I want it to, whenever we hover, I want it to show, switch to red, both the border and the text color. So I want it to switch to red, just the way this one also does, but smoothly. So we're going to copy this. In fact, let's just copy all and paste it again on a new line. But this time around, we're going to add the hover. Yeah. So border bottom, we're going to change it to red. So we're changing it to red. We're changing the color as well to red. Okay, then we're adding the transition again, transition property. But this time around, we're not adding it to the background because there's no background. So we need it on the border, we need it on the color. So let's just say all instead of specifying. Let's just say all. then 0.3 seconds. So we'll copy this and paste it here as well and save. Then let's refresh. Alright, so whenever we hover, you can see. Right, so we'll fix that, and what we want to do now is to move on to the apps, the movie apps. So remember we commented that out earlier. We're just going to bring it back. Yeah, so the quickest way to bring it back is to just select it again, then press the command that's control and forward slash. You use for control and forward slash to comment it out, and you also use it to bring it back. Alright, so save that. So now we're going to use flexbox as well for this. So I'm just going to copy this. All the movie apps, the logos are inside here. The movie apps logos are inside these movie apps. So we're going to just style them. So on the new line, let's just call the movie apps, and let's say before we style it, let's just make sure it's showing here. So refresh. Alright, you can see it's back. Okay, so let's just style it display and flex. Okay, so you can see it's now, everything is now arranged in a flex position. Okay, so after that we're going to give it width, let's say width of 80%, because we just want it to take only a part. We don't want it to stretch, because if we make them too big, it doesn't look so good anymore. So we just want it to take only 80% of the whole width. Okay, so 80%, and even if I refresh it, it won't show up here because the images don't respect the containers until you tell them to. Just like what I did with the logo. Remember, we set a width of 100 pixels and the logo was still bigger until we told it to take 100% of its container, which made it become smaller. So that's what we're going to do here also. But before we get there, okay, let's just go straight to that, and let's go to another line. We're going to call the movie apps, and in our HTML, I want to be sure we're talking about the the images itself. So we're going to call div, and we're going to give div a width. Let's say we want to make each of the logos 80% wide, 80 pixel wide, 80 pixels. So you can see this, they're all 80 pixels wide, 80 pixels. So this one is originally wide. It's just that it's a PNG image, so there's space here on the image, on the original image. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to give this particular div, we didn't add a class here, don't worry about that. We're going to give this div 80 pixels width. Alright, so we've called movie apps, then we're taking this div and calling it here as well, and let's say width 80 pixels. Then we're going to call the image now, just the same way we did it for the logo, div and image. So you can see movie apps, div, then the image. That's the process we're following. So now we're giving the image a width of 100%. Alright, so when we refresh this, you see everything becomes smaller. They all take the 100% of the width of the container where they are in. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our movie apps, and we're giving it, since we already gave it a flex, let me just bring this one down. Alright, so we're going to say align items center. You can see all of them are just arranged on a line at the top. I want them to arrange themselves in the center neatly, so I'm going to say align items center and save. Then when we refresh, you see everything arranges on a straight line. So If you want me to make a video on Flexbox, how to do Flexbox, just comment Flexbox in the comment section and I'll make a video on that. Okay, so back to the work. So we're going to add a gap so everything has some space and not just joined together like this. So we're adding a gap, 20 pixels. Okay, so I'm also going to add a flex wrap. The reason why it's not so important right now, especially for this particular video, but because I just want to, in case we're adding flex wrap and we're giving it a value of wrap, what this does is, if the page becomes smaller, if it's on a smaller screen, when this one gets to a smaller screen, normally it will keep on stretching out of the screen. But with flex wrap, and when you tell it to wrap on flex wrap, it automatically goes to a new line. So everything starts going to a new line and arranging itself in a new line, which is what we want. But I'm just adding it, but we don't really need it for this particular video. But that one aside, let's now add a margin to the top here so that it can give space between the buttons and the movie apps. Okay, so margin top, so 80 pixels, and let's refresh. Alright, so you can see now that works. Alright, so now we're done with the left side of the page and want to move over to the right side. So back in our own code, in our own work, you can see that this place is already looking good. Then this place is where we're coming to work on now. So we're going back to our HTML and let's scroll down. So we're going to delete this out because we're going to put real code there now. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to try to create three different sections, which is one section for this left button, another section that contains these movies, then another section that carries the right button. So we're doing it like this because we want to make sure it's organized and everything takes its own space. Okay, so that's three sections. So what we're going to do is to create the button div, a div tag with the button. So let's say control. So this is for the left one, and we'll create a button. But before we create it, let's just leave it this way. Let's create, so this one is for this control is for the left button here. We want to create the next one, which is for the movies, and we'll call it movie box. So movie box. Okay, so we'll go to a new line and say control again. That's for the right one, for the right button now. Okay, so what we're going to do is on the first control for the left button, we're going to add a button, which is going to be the left button, of course. So I will just use the less than sign here. Okay, then on this part, I'll create the button tag and use the greater than sign. Okay, so if we save and look at it, it won't really give us anything good. You can see the two buttons here. So let's create the movies inside. Okay, so we'll go to a new line. Then we're going to create, each movie, and each movie will have its own div tag. So what we're going to do is we're trying to create boxes like this for each movie. We're trying to create boxes like that. Alright, so what we're just going to do is to create a div tag and name it. We give it a class of movie. Okay, so let's create an image tag inside it. So image, that's the image that is going to show inside. Okay, so let's start with a random movie. Let's just go into the image folder. So I'll go to my assets, to images, and Let's just pick the first one there. Okay, so if you save and refresh, you can see it's so big. Okay, I picked the wrong image. This is supposed to be the background image, because in our our work, we have two different images, and as you can see, we have the original movie image, and we have the background image. We have the original movie image and we have the background image, so it's the same for every other thing. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to just change this. I have one for this. Okay, this is it right here. Okay, let me refresh. Okay, so this is it. All right, we're going to style it now so it won't be looking bad like this. All right, so next thing we'll do is to we're going to duplicate the movie and make it more. So let's copy that and paste it again, paste it again, paste it again. Let's just make it 4. Okay, that's 1 2 3 4. All right, so now if we refresh, we're just going to see a lot more. You can see. Let me change the images inside so that we can see different images. Okay, Batman, let's say PET. So if I refresh, you can see the movies are now different. Okay, so what we want to do now is to give it styling and make them all fit into these boxes. So first thing we're going to do is to give the box a width. We're going to style the boxes, then we'll tell the images to fit into the boxes. Alright, so back in our code, we're going to take the movie view, because this is the main container on the right side. We're going to take the movie view and style it. So on a new line, movie view, we're going to give it a width of, we want it to take from here, because this is where it starts. We want it to take from here to the end. But remember, we already took 500 pixels here and gave it a margin right of 60 pixels, which means this is already losing 560 pixels. Let me go back to our code so we can see it. Up here, you see we gave the movie info 500 pixels. That's from here to here. Then we also gave it margin right of 100 pixels. Okay, that's 600 actually. Alright, back here, so what we want to do is to give it 100%, but this time around we're just going to tell it to take 100%, but we're going to subtract all this out, which is going to be 600 pixels out of it. Alright, so let's say calc, so 100% minus 600 pixels. If we refresh now, we still won't notice anything though. So let's just go on. So let's say display flex. And the reason why we're using display flex is because we want to arrange all this in a line. As you can see, it's not in a line. You can see the button here, then you can see the image under, then you can see the next one, the next button will be, so yeah, this is it at the end. Alright, so we want it to just arrange itself on a line, on a horizontal line. So display flex, and we'll say gap. I want to give it a gap of 10 pixels. So if we refresh now, we're going to see something different. You can see now here and here, then the images are in the middle. Now you might be asking why the images are staying straight and not arranged horizontally. That's because it's flexbox, and in flexbox it actually takes the immediate child element, which means you have movie view, and in movie view it only sees the immediate child element, which is that's this particular one. It sees this, it doesn't see whatever is inside, then it sees this. So for more understanding, if you want me to explain Flexbox, if you want me to do a separate video on Flexbox, just drop a comment, and I'll be happy to do it. Okay, so now we're going to also style this, don't forget. So we're coming to that. So back to our code. What we're going to do next is to add a margin to the top, and that is, we want to make it auto. So what it does is to just bring this down to the bottom. So margin top and auto. So when we refresh, it will bring it down, but because there are lots of things here, it's not yet arranged, so we won't see the difference yet. Okay, so next thing we want to do now is to specifically arrange this particular one. So we're trying to style these small boxes now, which is this movie. Each movie box now, each of these movies, we want to style them. So let's just take movie. On a new line, we're going to say, call the movie class. Then let's give it a width of 150 pixels and a height of 200 pixels. Then we're also going to say border radius of 20 pixels. Then we're saying, if we refresh it like this, we're not going to notice the difference much, because you can see the images are still popping out, but we want them to to take their containers, to take the shape of their containers. So what we're going to do is to add overflow to it. So we're going to add overflow, hide the overflow, and say hidden, which means the excess part of the images we hide. So if you refresh, you can see down that everything is taking shape. Alright, but you can see it's still not fitting in just the way this one is not fitting in. So we're going to come to that right now. Alright, so first of all, let me add cursor pointer, so that whenever we hover, it will show the hand. You can see it. Alright, so we're going to style the movie, the images. So we're calling movie and the image inside. So movie image. Alright, so first of all, we'll give it a width that's 100%, and we'll also give it height of 100%, so that it can take wide and take high. Alright, so we're going to give it an object fit, because doing this alone just makes it distorted. If you refresh, you can see some of them are not, some of them don't have good dimensions. Like this one is looking squeezed. Yeah, this one is also looking squeezed. Okay, so we're going to do object fit and give it cover. Then we'll also say object position, and say center and save. So when we refresh, you see everything stretches out properly and takes the right dimensions. Okay, so what we want to do now is to style the movie box itself. We want to make each of these movies align themselves horizontally. We want to make them stay on a straight line like this. So we're going to take the movie box class, because all the movies are inside. As you can see, each movie, all of them are inside. Okay, so so we're going to put that here right after the movie view class. So let's say display flex, and when we refresh, you'll see everything now arranges on a horizontal line. So display flex, let's say align items flex end. Okay, let me leave this one out so that you can understand it better when I come to it. So let's say gap 20 pixels, and when I refresh, you can see it gives gap in between. Okay, then what next? Overflow x. this won't really show up yet, so let me show you something. In the movie class, what I want to do is I want each of the movies to stretch out freely so that they can all come out and we'll be able to scroll through. So first of all, I'm going to add more movies. So let me copy and paste more. So I'm going to add a new movie. Let's say which movie I want to add it. Let's say Bloody Hand. Okay, so let's add another movie here. Differs. Let's add one more movie. Let's say Dora and refresh. So you can see everything now goes on a line, but it's coming out. But what we want to do is to hide it. We don't want it to, stretch out. We want it to hide inside and disappear when it gets to this part, just like this one. You can see it disappears. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to tell this because all the movies are inside this movie box. We want to tell movie box to hide every other thing that is bigger. So what I'm saying is overflow X. So overflow, if you say overflow, it means everything that comes out horizontally and vertically. But when we say overflow X, it talks about only everything horizontally. You understand? So what we want to do is to hide everything horizontally. So we're saying overflow X and we'll say hidden. So when we refresh, you can see nothing will be able to come out. But now the problem is that it squeezes everything inside. It squeezes everything. Like even if you have 100 movies here, it squeezes everything and makes it smaller. And that's not what we want. We want everything to have the right size. The size we specify, that's what we want it to have. So what we're going to do now is on each of the movie box, each of the movie, we're going to add a flex shrink and say 0. So we'll say flex shrink 0, and when we go back and refresh, you see everything now goes out again. Alright, so that's it, but we can't scroll. That's fine, we'll come back to that. Okay, so now what we want to do is to style our buttons. So we're going to style our buttons. Let's say control because our button is control, is in the control class. You can see it. So control, let's say button, control button, we'll call the button as well. Say background, by removing the background, so say none, because this is it here, we don't have a background. So say none, then width 60 pixels, height 60 pixels, then border 1 pixel solid and white. That is this circular line. Okay, so it's going to actually show up as it's going to show up as a square, of course, because it's going to show up as a square. But what we want to do is to turn it to a circle. So we're going to add border radius and say, let's just say 50 pixels and refresh it. So you can see it's non-circle. So we're going to give it a color of a white color here. Alright, so when we refresh it, the arrow comes out more now. Okay, so we'll also increase the font size. Increase the font size so that, let's say 1.5 em, and refresh so it becomes bigger. So we'll also add a cursor pointer so that it can also give us that hand cursor effect here. So like this. Okay, now we have our our buttons, but what we also want to do is to give it, whenever we hover it, you can see this one, whenever we hover it, it gives us a white effect, a white background, a faded white background. So we're just going to add a transition, hover transition on it. So let's just copy this and paste it here. Then we'll add the colon and hover. Okay, so background, we'll say background and white. Then we'll just reduce the transparency. We'll make it transparent and save. So whenever let's refresh, you can see, but it's jumping in. So we're going to just add transition. So let's say transition and all, then 0.3 seconds. So also copy and paste it here too, so that it can fade in and fade out. Okay, so refresh, see. Alright, so we've gotten that right. So now we want this to to arrange horizontally. I mean to align, want to align them in the middle so it doesn't just stay at the top like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to look for the particular class that is responsible for holding all of them together, which is going to be movie view. Yeah, so movie view holds the control, it holds the movie box, and it also holds the other part of the control. So that is movie view. So we'll go back to movie view. Where's movie view? Alright, this is it. So we're going to add align items and put it to center, save and refresh. So you can see now. So like I said, this thing I just did, this align item center, is also part of Flexbox. So if you are learning Flexbox, you also learn that together. Alright, so next thing we're going to do now is whenever we have a particular movie selected, it makes it bigger. You can see this becomes bigger, this one becomes bigger. So that's what we're going to do. We want to give a new class that will be added to this whenever it's selected. Whenever a movie is selected, it gives that class to the particular movie and it becomes bigger. Okay, so now what we're going to just do is we're going to say, first of all, let's use one as to test it. So we'll pick one movie, let's say the first movie, and we're going to add another class here and say, let's say active. So that will be the active class. Alright, so basically what we want to do is we just want to style the movie class all over again. We're just going to style it again, but this time we're modifying a few things. So let's just say let's find the movie. Where's movie? Okay, this movie here. So after it, we're going to add the active, but we're saying movie first, then we won't leave any space. We'll just call the active active because they are on the same, they're in the same tag. So we want to make sure it's both of them that are working together. Alright, so let's say width, the original width we gave is 150 and the height is 200. So we want it to be bigger. Let's just say 200 pixels and the height will be 250 pixels. Alright, so we're going to add, okay, first of all, let's just refresh and see. You can see it's now bigger while the others are small, and that's because I added the class, the active class, to this. If I remove it and save, then refresh, you see it becomes smaller. So we're going to make it dynamic with JavaScript, but let's get there first. So let me bring that back. Okay, then we're going to add a shadow because we want to give it this red glow effect behind it, and we can do that with box shadow. So I already got something before. So let's go to, you can just search if you go to cssgenerator.org/boxshadow cssgenerator.html, I'll leave the link in the description. You'll be able to create box shadows without stress. You can just use the sliders and make your own box shadow. So you just change the values. So what we want to do is to keep it in the center, but make sure it's glowing out of the sides. So increase blur radius and adjust everything, then change the color. So I want it to be reddish. So I've already I already have the one I used before, so I'm just going to paste that in. So I'll just go to a new line and paste it. So you can see I got the values from here. Okay, so when I refresh, you see it gives this effect around it. Okay, so you can see there is it's kind of cutting out here. That's because we need to add a little more space so that we allow the glow effect to come out more. So we're going to look for, we're going to look for the body, I mean the box that covers this, that holds all this together, which will be movie. It should be the movie part. Let's say, I think movie box. Yeah, movie box. So you see, movie box holds all movies inside. It holds all the movies inside. Alright, so we want movie box to give a little more space here so that everything can show up. So I'm going to add space here and space here. So where's movie box? Okay. So let's say padding 20 pixels for the top and 20 pixels for the, that's 20 pixels for the top and bottom, and 20 pixels for the left and right. So I'll just save and come here, then refresh. So you can see it now gives more, it allows it to show more, which is what we want. Alright, then I'm also I want everything to arrange itself on the baseline here. For example, you see this, you can see everything arranges itself on the line here. Meanwhile, this one is arranging itself on the top. It doesn't really look clean, so I want it to arrange everything here. Okay, so I'm just going to come back here and say align items, and I'll give it flex end. This is also part of flexbox. So if I refresh, you can see everything arranged now. Okay, so back to our movie. Whenever we hover, if you look at this, whenever we hover, you can see a faint red coming out in the background, and all that. So we just want to give it a faint red so it won't just look dull. So we're going to use the box shadow again, but this time around I'm just going to paste it in to avoid delay. So first of all, what I want to do is do it only when we hover the class. So we're going to say, we'll copy this and paste it. Then we just alter the value there. So we don't want the shadow to be as bright as the original one. So I'm just going to change it, and I'll just add the one that I edited. Okay, so let's refresh. Okay, sorry, I think I made a mistake. So what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to say hover. Yeah, I didn't say hover. Alright, so if you refresh, whenever you hover, you can see, okay, I'm supposed to remove this too. Sorry about that. So when you refresh, you can see it gives the effect. Alright, so I'm supposed to also add that transition so it doesn't just jump in. Let's say 0.3 seconds. Let's also add that to here. So transition. So if I refresh, you can see it, but it's too bright. Yeah, I'll adjust that now. So okay, on the hover, yes, for the hover. So paste it here, then refresh and see it. But now there's something, I selected the movie for hover, putting hover effects on the movie class, which means if you hover this, it also does the same thing that this will do. You can see it's reducing the color of the hover effect, because that's what I said. So I'm going to do a separate one for the active class already, because it's not already active, so I don't want it to be reducing this glow. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it again, but this time around I'll add hover to it. So I'm not removing the active class, I'm just leaving it, but I'm adding hover so that it will remain the same with how it is, which means if I refresh now, if I hover it, it doesn't change, but if I hover the others, they also change, you can see, but this one remains the same. Okay, so that will be all for the styling. And what we want to do now is to go back to our JavaScript so that we can make sure when we click it becomes active, it changes, everything works dynamically, and when we click on the buttons they can all move. So first of all, we're going to make more edits to our HTML. So what we're going to do is to add title into the tags. We're going to add title, we're going to add the description and all that. So I'll provide the descriptions I generated from ChatGPT to make everything look realistic. So I'm going to make all those edits. I'll show you how you can make the edit, then I'll also skip the video so that it can be faster too. So what I'm going to do is for each movie, I'm going to remove this active class first of all. So for each movie, I'm going to start with this one. I'm starting with this one, yes. So I'm going to come here after the class. I'm not inside the class, but outside the class. I'm going to a new line and I'll give it a data attribute. So data dash movie title, and now I'll give it the name of the movie. So the first one is altered perception. Then I'll come out of it, go to a new line and say data movie description, just say movie DESC. Then I'll paste the description. Okay, all right, so let me just close this out so that you can see a lot more. Okay, so now we have our movie title, we have the movie description, we also need the background. That's the background that is going to show here. So we need the background. So back to the end, just let me wrap this. Okay, so just come out and go to a new line, then say data movie bg, and now we're going to put the link to the movie background. So we already have, this is the same path with this, so we don't have to look for it again. Just say assets slash images slash, we can look up the name of the file. So altered perception, we're looking for the background this time around because we already added the image here, but we want the background because it's going to JavaScript is going to call it, it's going to take that background and fix it for us. So this is it here. Let's just copy the name and paste. So altered perception bg dot jpg. Okay, so that will be all for that, and all we have to do is repeat the whole thing for each of them. So I'm just going to speed the video here. First of all, let me move this, just move it in. Okay, so I'll give a line here before the image so that it can be understandable a lot more. All right, so
a few moments later.
All right, so I've completed the orders. So you can see this movie Sinners, you can see Altered Perception, you can see the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl, you can see Archer and all that. So everything with their descriptions and all, I've added everything. So what we're going to do now, we're going to JavaScript. So I'm just going to go to the end of the page, and before the body tag, I'll add a JavaScript file. So like this. Then I haven't created my JavaScript file yet, so let me just create it. So in the JS folder, I'll create a file and call it, let's say, main.js. So this is it here. So back here, I'll just go into my assets, go to JS folder and main.js. Okay, so now in our JavaScript file, what we want to do, first of all, we want to select important elements. We want to select the wrapper class. We want to select the movie class. We want to select everything, the movie title. We're going to select everything. So let's just say constant and wrapper document dot query selector and wrapper. Remember to add the dot because it's a class. So remember to add the dot. If not, JavaScript will not recognize it. Then end with a semicolon. Then on the new line, we can just copy this and paste it and say movies, then dot movie, which is this. So each movie, that's it, each of the movies. Okay, so dot movie, we can paste again. Then this time around we'll say title, then movie title is what we want. So that is the movie title. So this is the movie title here, up movie title. So remember, we still have the original default one we used, which is this. We still have it there. We haven't changed it, but JavaScript is going to change it for us. But remember, the title that is here should be the title of the first movie you have. So if I refresh this, you can see Sinners is the first one I have. So I put Sinners in the default. So whenever we load, it's going to give us the Sinners here. And I also added default text here. So I'm just going to change it to the one that I copied. Okay, so let me just change it and save. So if I refresh it, yeah, it updates. Okay, so now we have taken the movie title. I want to go to the next one. Let's copy again and paste. So the next one we're going to take is the description. So I'm saying movie description. Copy and paste again. What else are we taking? We're taking the movie box itself. Let's say movie box, then movie box. That is this one here. Yeah. So this one here, that's movie box. Okay, so which other one? We're taking the buttons, that's the left and right buttons, this one and this one. So left btn. So let's say control. We're calling the control here. That's this control class. But we're going to add a left class here, left, so that we can specifically know when we're calling the left button and know when we're calling the right button. So at the end, we have our right button here, so I'll say right. Alright, then we're saying control, we're calling the control dot left. So that's control dot left because they're on the same tag. So control dot left and button. Alright, so we're not adding a dot here because it's not a class. So we're doing the same thing for the right. So let's say left btn, this one will be right btn. So right btn. Okay, so that's for that one. Then we're going to talk about what happens when the left button is clicked first of all. So let's say left btn dot add event listener. We're adding an event listener, and that's when it's clicked. So click in a quotation mark, in quotes, then comma, and this. So we say if movie box dot scroll left is greater than 0, we're going to scroll left by 220 pixels smoothly. That's because each of these we're going to scroll left by the size of each of the movie boxes. Like each of these box, this particular box, now we're going to scroll left by that. So okay, here you can see I'm just going to scroll by, let's say, 220 pixels, 220, sorry, movie box dot scroll by, you say left minus 220, behavior smooth. Alright, so that's how that one works. Then we add a semicolon at the end. So that's for the left button. Then when the right button is clicked, we say right btn dot, we'll add an event listener as well for click. So we'll add a constant max scroll is equals to movie box dot scroll width. So it won't be able to, we can, this one was like calculating how far we can scroll so that we don't just scroll on and on and on. So if it gets to the end, we don't just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. That's what we're trying to do. So we're calculating how far it can scroll, which is the movie box scroll width minus the movie box client width dot client width. Alright, so now we're going to tell it to only scroll if we're not at the end. So if we're not at the end of the line, it will keep scrolling until it gets to the end. So if movie box dot scroll left is less than the maximum scroll, movie box dot scroll by says left 220, behavior smooth. So basically the same thing for left and same thing for right, and semicolon at the end. Alright, so also add a semicolon here and here. Okay, so what we want to do now is whenever we click a movie, it gives the active class, it makes it active and all that, and also generates the title of the movie and puts it into the bigger side. So that's what we're going to do now. So movies for each, say movie, so movie dot add event listener, then click. When it's clicked, so we're going to remove the active class from the currently active movie. So document dot query selector. So we're calling the movie class, the movie and the active class together. Dot class list dot remove. So we're removing active. So we're calling the movie and active class, but we're removing only active. Dot active. Okay, so semicolon. Then we're also going to add the active class to the movie that was clicked. So whenever the next movie is clicked, it will be added. So movie dot class list dot add. We're adding the active class. So end with a semicolon. Alright, so now we're getting the background, the title, and the description from the clicked movies custom data attributes. So we're adding our constant again. So let's say bg, that's the background, movie dot get attributes. So data movie. So that's the things we selected here, rather the data movie title, data movie description, data movie bg. That's what we're going to be putting here. But we're not adding any dots here because it's not a class. You understand? So data movie bg, and we'll add a semicolon. So I'll copy and paste it 2 times because we're doing for the bg, we're doing for the title. Let's just call it mov title so it will be short. So we're saying data movie title, then movdesc. Alright, so data movie desc here. Okay, so after that we're going to update the UI with the new info. So we're adding the wrapper style, wrapper.style dot background. So we're updating the CSS. Remember, updating the CSS where the background is, that's this place. So we're going to update the CSS and see. We're using backtick. We're not using quotation marks this time. We're using the backticks. This. Yeah, so URL in brackets. We're adding the quotation mark, non single quotes. We're adding to. In the middle, we're going to type $sign. Then we're using curly bracelets bg. Then we'll come out of it and close the curly bracelets. So we're closing the curly bracelets, then coming out of the bracket itself. Then we'll continue with the no repeat, then center cover. We're doing this because it's totally replacing the previous one there, so it doesn't look disorganized. Alright, then a new line, we add our title dot text content dot then equals to mov title, which is this mov title here, then semicolon, then desc dot text content equals to mov desc, which is the one that we put here, then semicolon. Then we'll complete the semicolon here, and let's save. So when we go to our page and refresh and we click, okay, it's now working and it's also skipping. It's not going smoothly as expected. Nothing is working. So let's refresh again. Then let's check the developer tools. I'll just press F12, or you can right click and go to inspect. So I'll switch to console. Okay, so it says uncut type error, movies dot for each is not a function. Okay, so let's look at that. Is what line is that? Okay, I've seen the issue. So I used I used document dot query selector instead of query selector all. Yeah, so query selector all, that's why we had an issue there. So back to our code, if we refresh, you can see it's gone now. Alright, so when we click, it moves. It also selects, but it doesn't add the class like we expected. Okay, I think I've seen the issue as well. There's a typo here, so let's adjust that. Okay. Okay, I also found the error here. So I used behavior. I'm not American, so I spell behavior with OU. So I should use OR instead of OU. Same with this. Yeah, so that is also an issue. I'll remove this dot here for this class list. I think we also have another place. So this one too, I'll also remove it. So I think because it's already knowing that this is supposed to be a class, so there's no need to add it again. Unlike this one now that says query selector, and we have to specify that it's a class. Okay, so let's check again and see if it works. Let's cross our fingers. All right, now it works. So it works. So while we scroll through and you can click on each movie and it comes out as expected. So that will be all for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please, if you like the video, if you don't like the video, just like and comment and subscribe to support and show your support for more. If you want me to do a video on Flexbox, please leave a comment in the comment section and I'll be happy to make another video. Thank you for watching.